Hey, it's Don here from the board. So this is actually going to be my first video attempt using the GoPro with the head mount. So I actually have no idea what I am filming right now as far as the angle, but just from messing around in general, hopefully this will capture enough of the bench space. So you would have seen from a previous video that I picked up a couple of wood planes. So this is the jack plane that I talked about, and here's the cheap Sontax plane. I think this is actually Indian made. Anyway, doesn't matter. You'll see there's a whole bunch of wood shavings here because I've been playing around with the Sontax. But today I want to move a bit more forward with the jack plane and getting it into a working state. So what I've done to date is I've cleaned it and I've actually filled it. So you'll see over here I've got a red bucket, and this stuff is called it's Timbermate. It's a wood filler, and I have filled in the cracks around the actual throat here. I've filled in around at the bottom near the actual mouth of the plane, and I've also clamped and glued it in a couple of spots, and I sort of just ran it in general across the bottom against the sole here to smooth it out. And then I've used my homemade wax paste, which is in here. So it's a 1:4 ratio of beeswax to coconut oil to sort of give it a bit of protection and clean it. But what I want to get to today is cleaning up the iron and the iron cap, and then move forward to actually sharpening. So the first step that we're going to take here is we're going to take out the that bit there, and we'll take out the iron. So before we talked about this, you probably still can't see it very well with the reflection and the camera angle, but there is some maker's marks there. So we're just going to move this to the side for now. Okay, so we'll take the screw out that's holding the cap iron, also sometimes known as the chip breaker. It doesn't actually break any chips as such, but it's there to effectively support the iron and you know, also stop shavings from getting caught underneath the actual iron against the mouth. Now what I am trying to achieve here is that this is going to be nice and flat, and it will sit so that there's actually no gaps against the underside of the actual blade against the iron. Now this is pretty rusty. It's not too bad, like it's not heavily pitted or anything like that. I did sort of give it a light clean before, but what I do want to do is I'm actually going to run it with my drill and a wire brush to really clean it off, really give it a good clean. Okay, so that's what I've got here. I've got the drill with the wire brush, and then I'm going to cover it with my wax paste just to reduce the amount of rust that's going to get to it, and then I'm going to sharpen it with a guide that I bought actually quite cheap. I bought it secondhand off the market. So this is the Veritas Mark II Deluxe Honing Guide set. I got it for half price. Really, really great buy there. So we're going to give that a try, but we'll talk about that later, probably in another video. So I'm just going to step out from the workbench here because I don't really want any of this kind of blowing the dust around. So I'm going to go and grab a glove so that I don't do too much damage to myself if I accidentally grip the wrong part. And we're just going to head out to the end of the driveway, or to the garage. And here we go, I guess. I'll go this way. Just as well that well, we're going to be sharpening this later anyway. So I was talking to some friends who were cleaning up some weights, and they asked me why am I not using chemical cleaning. I didn't really want to mess with chemical cleaning as opposed to just mechanical cleaning because of the kids being around, so at least this is a little bit easier to deal with. In theory anyway. Of course, if I had like an angle grinder or something, not angle grinder, like a bench grinder, then it probably would be easier again. So you can kind of see there maybe, yeah, it comes up as Brick Antonberg, E. Skituna Garant, and then Aiken, Sydney. Well, that was unexpected. Alright, let's maybe run it the other direction so it doesn't unscrew it. Alright, so a lot of that rust has been scoured off. The rest of it I probably won't be too concerned about. Okay, let's go and give the cap iron the same treatment. That side's not too bad. Okay, so that might be a little bit more visible. I honestly can't tell from the camera angle, but you can see that Mathieson and Son Glasgow and that crescent with the star is a lot more noticeable now. And then of course that solid steel warranted part on the bottom too. Okay, so I think that'll do the job there. Yeah. Okay, so now with that sorted, screw, I don't know. Didn't really do too much for it. All right, just got a little bit of a cloth there, and that's probably a bit much. That'll be more than enough. Just gonna apply that over it to just give it a bit of a protective layer for any more of that rust reforming. And then of course later when we actually sharpen, you know, with water and everything else, it will be less of an issue, and that'll dry off in due course too. Now, some of you may actually say, oh no, what are you doing to this? This is, you know, a piece of history, or you're not restoring it correctly, and there's proper ways to be doing this. Well, look, I get it, to be honest. I probably am not doing it the right way, and I don't really have the tools or the setup for it to be a perfect restoration. But I bought this super cheap. You know, I never bought it intending to restore it as a museum level quality piece. I bought it for it to be functional. You know, I bought it so that it could have another life as a working tool, which means realistically anything that I do to it right now, if I can sharpen it, if I can clean it, if I can make it a working piece of tool that allows me to plane these pallet pieces that I've got down here into working boards, then I've achieved that goal, and it's had more working life than it sitting around on a shelf looking pretty and being perfectly restored. So from a functional perspective, it doesn't really matter to me if I don't do it perfectly, if I don't do it right, so long as the end result is that I can actually use it, is that I can actually turn it into a working tool as it was designed and intended to be. So that's why I'm not too fussed if I'm going to get it right or wrong. Now, hands are a bit oily there. I don't have terribly much clean rags that I can really use to clean off with. Okay, so I've got that. Probably use that to just wipe off and clean any excess anyway, since a very fine layer is all we really need. So I need to set those aside for sharpening at a later date. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm pretty much just going to end this clip here, and then of course I will follow on with the next video, which is going to be just sharpening these two pieces using this Veritas guide and my actual sharpening board here, and I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to that. So for now, I'm going to sign off there, and I'm going to review the footage from the GoPro and the head strap. Honestly, don't know how good it's going to be. It might be absolutely terrible, but you know what? I've already filmed it. I've already cleaned it up. I can't go back and re-rust this to pretend that this has never happened and reshoot it. So if this is really terrible angle, if it's really terrible sound, and it doesn't work out, well, too bad, so sad. It's just going to go up on the channel anyway. So if you see that, I do apologize, but you know, trial and error. We'll just have to see how it goes, and hopefully the next one will be better. So thanks for checking this quick bit out on just cleaning up these and the next progression to making this lovely turn of the century jack plane into a working piece for the next steps on what I'm trying to do here on the board. So thanks for coming along and checking out this video, and of course, until next time, happy clacking.